Welcome to the Men Are Forged podcast. I'm your host, Cartwright Morris. Thanks for being with me today. If you haven't yet, please go to menareforged.com and subscribe. You will receive a free download about the 3 essentials of how to define your purpose. That's menareforged.com, menareforged.com. Well, I appreciate you listening, and here's today's episode. All right, well, I got a great episode today here with Steve Dailey, coming all the way from Colorado. Steve, good to have you here.
Great to be here, Cartwright. Excited to see where our conversation takes us here.
Absolutely. So, Steve, you've got to introduce those who don't know Steve. His website is Entrepreneurial Excellence. He's a entrepreneurial coach, right? Leadership coach, helping entrepreneurs. But you're also a very active adventure guy. I know you got a lot of stories on that, but what's something you're doing right now that you're training for, or you just did, just to kind of give my audience a little bit of insight into who you are?
Well, probably mild by comparison to some of the things that I've done. Right now, I've really gotten into hammock camping, and I've made a goal to go at least once every month, no matter the temperature, through the year. I'm actually living in North Carolina now, so it's not okay. It's not Colorado temperatures, but it's still going to get chilly. But
it's not warm.
but I'm excited about that, and on that list, there's a lot of great places that I want to explore. I've already climbed the highest peak on the east of the Mississippi. I want to do that again. There's some amazing waterfalls and things that are a little more difficult to get to that I've read about. So a pretty long list of adventures ahead.
That's great. That's awesome. I just remember if you go on his website, you could see the list of all that Steve has done, and it's pretty amazing. So, so Steve, if you would just let's start from the beginning. I'll ask all my guests this question. Who are your early influenced? Who really shaped success, masculinity, even adventure for you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Zeroing in on a particular person like a mentor or a guide or whatever is frankly kind of difficult. In fact, if anything, I probably derived most of my inspiration, ambition for achievement by observing others that I didn't want to emulate, to people that I really didn't, that didn't impress me. I will tell a short story though about I don't know the individual's name or really anything about him other than what I'll embed in the story here. But when I was in high school, I grew up in Colorado, and there is an amusement park in Denver called Litch's Gardens. And we used to go to that place every chance that we could get. And I remember one time a bunch of buddies and I were there. And of course, we didn't go there for the rides. We went there to go pick up chicks, of course. And we were, scoping out, who might be some girls that we could go have fun with there. And we were taking we were taking up as much room down the little path as we could, being big and tough and all. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a group of people that literally looked like they were like a sea was parting. So there's this big crowd of people, and all of a sudden a big opening opened up. And bursting out of this group of people was a man that to me looked like a dinosaur. I mean, he was, in terms of his age, he was white hair, obviously very much senior to me, but he was also very unusual by comparison to most of the people that I'd recognized as older than me. He was very trim, had a pair of bright white breeches on, a T-shirt that revealed a pretty decent physique. And he was running out of this group of people chasing a little ball, one of those you may remember super balls, little balls that bounce really high.
Oh yeah, okay.
And he was literally running after this ball, and with so much energy and zeal that everybody around him basically made way for him. And I remember vividly thinking to myself, "Wow, when I get old, I want to be just like that guy." And so I don't know if I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about the guy. I don't know if I've achieved that aspiration, but he certainly was an inspiration for me at that moment.
Yeah. So a guy, so in his old age, that was active, energetic, enjoying a simple activity.
Yeah. And with all full on enthusiasm. He was at an amusement park. Let's not step over that.
Yeah.
He wasn't standing still. He wasn't waiting in line. He wasn't barking at his kids. He wasn't, sitting on a bench watching everybody else. He was involved and energetically so. So
Right.
That was a true inspiration for me.
Absolutely. So how old were you when that happened?
I was in high school, probably junior, senior in high school. Yeah.
Okay. So that influenced the next decision when you left.
I would say, yeah, that and other similar experiences that I think, just motivated me. I was fortunate enough to have done pretty well in competitive swimming. So I went to school, Colorado State University, and swam there. Mm-hmm. And, trained really hard. And frankly, drinking too much beer, I didn't reach my potential. Looking back, in fact, and a story we may go to later, but I actually ended up achieving world rankings as a master swimmer in my 40s. Oh wow. 40s and early 50s. But yeah, the swimming, the whole immersion, if you will, and physical activity and so forth. In college, in my early college years, I think really influenced a trajectory. And one time I didn't have a car when I went to school. I rode my bicycle everywhere. And I remember being at a pub, and this predates you dramatically, car ride, but back in those days, in Colorado, you could buy 3.2% beer at 18. Yeah. So the drinking age is 21 for alcohol, except they sold a lower percentage of alcohol by volume to 18-year-olds. And so we had our own little special pubs for 18-year-olds there. And so I was at a pub one evening, and we were drinking our 3.2 beer, a watered down beer. And I was bragging about, I was swimming, I was training really hard. I rode my bicycle everywhere I went. I was bragging to all my buddies, you know what? I am in the best shape I'm in my life. In fact, I bet I could ride my bicycle to Canada. And one of my buddies immediately said, I bet you can't do that. And he threw his beer down on the table, and all my buddies around said, I'll bet you can't either. Well, you can't say you're not going to do it after that. And so on literally a beer bet at age 19 and a little more, I rode my bicycle from Colorado to Canada and back. It was a 2,500 mile adventure that I can honestly say completely reshaped or redefined my experience or my notion of what I was capable of. The trip was loaded with lessons around uncertainty, goal achievement, completion, tenacity, overcoming fear. Yeah. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. So that was really a defining moment right there, at the precipice of heading into my 20s.
All based on a bet. That's pretty cool.
It was all on a beer bet, yeah. Which, by the way, they didn't own up to. I got back.
Oh, no way. You did it. They didn't even pay you.
Did it. Bragging rights, the whole thing. Brought home some souvenirs of the journey plus plenty of stories. And it was kind of like, yeah, well, Gosh, I just spent my last dollar on the beer I'm drinking, pal. Sorry, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's all right.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it shaped some values. It shaped your decision making. I mean, it created a life of what's possible. And it makes me think of the book I read, What Doesn't Kill You, I think is the name of the book.
Are you thinking about Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me? Or there's another book. Yeah. Same kind of thing. I mean, I'm not going to claim to have achieved the things that he did, but yeah, for sure. When you go through things in life that are loaded with experience that if you had known before going in, you wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Then that's where the real lessons in life show up, in my experience. Mm-hmm. In the middle of doing that ride, if you just stopped me and said, given what you know now, would you have done this? I'd have said, absolutely not. This was the stupidest thing I've ever done. But upon completion, it was absolutely golden in many, many ways.
I mean, you just find out, I think in general, when we face a challenge, we find out what we're capable of.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you, because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organization, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors, not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, no, that's without a doubt. I mean, until you're tested, you don't know. And while when in this space of not knowing, we're always inclined to undervalue, underpredict, play in the safe zone. And when you throw yourself into new challenges, and I've made a life of this, always like we talked about, just always looking for what is the next thing that I can put myself into it's loaded with uncertainty, that will bring me to new levels of testing and discovery and perspective.
So when you say that word uncertainty, the unknown, I think for a lot of people in their 20s, even their 30s right now, I think that's probably the most terrifying thing is the unknown. How have you addressed the unknown in your life? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first let's talk about where it comes from. So if you can think back to when you were a wee pup, just figuring out how life worked in the most fundamental sense, most of us were pretty fearless. We would try things that on a dare, or just because we saw somebody else doing it. Things as simple as jumping on a bicycle to try to, for the first time, to learn how, or I remember guys jumping off of big high rocks into a lake, just because somebody else did it, But what happens is along the way is two very unfortunate things. I think it's part of growing up, but it I think stifles a lot of us. One is that we're not successful oftentimes with those endeavors, right? We get hurt. We fall off the bike and it hurt way more than we thought, or we didn't think that was going to happen. Or we were disappointed that we didn't do it as well as somebody else, as we saw somebody else doing it. Or, there's sort of the implications of uncertainty start to show up in this stark realization that, wow, just because I think I can doesn't mean I can. But then the other thing that happens is peer pressure. Gosh, I don't know about you, Cartwright, but I can look back and honestly say the most uncomfortable period in my life was in junior high. It was absolutely relentlessly brutal. And so you learn, many of us in junior high and beyond, that when we try new things, a lot of people are watching, and they may look at us in a despairing or less than complimentary way. And so those things, I think, embed in us in early life, hesitation, doubt. I call it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Mm-hmm. And we live through it throughout our lives unless we make a concerted and determined decision to not let that beat us, to not let uncertainty or FUD, even fear, uncertainty, and doubt, define us, and instead put ourselves into new things, new opportunities, new experiences. And they don't have to be physical, by the way. They can be intellectual. They can be discovery experiences of any kind. And when we make a conscious and deliberate decision to constantly put something out there ahead of us like that, then all of a sudden a whole new world opens up.
Yeah, that's so good. So yeah, where did you, as you're kind of working this out, I imagine in your college years, what then led to the decision in occupation?
Okay, well, that's an interesting story. So as I said, I was a competitive swimmer. Made money in the summers as a lifeguard and coaching swimming, and I really fell in love with that. My degree is in exercise science, exercise physiology, and so I was passionate about getting into the business of professional coaching, professional athletics coaching. And so I got my first job offer. By the way, just quick sidebar, everyone around me during this particular moment in time was telling me there weren't any jobs. That Steve, you might as well just stay in school. Yeah. Nobody's hiring right now. I can't remember what's going on economically. I wasn't, dialed into that. I was kind of I was a college kid. What can I say? Yeah. And so I went to the library, and bear in mind for your listeners, this is way, way, way before the internet, if you can imagine that. And so I went to the library, and they had this big fat book of all of the school districts in the nation, all of the contact information for every school district. I picked 7 states that I thought that I wanted to live in, and pulled out all the school districts and names and contact information for all the school districts over a certain size, and sent a letter basically saying, hey, I'm getting ready to graduate. Here's my resume. I'd love an opportunity to work for you. Here's what I want to do. Sent out 300 of those letters. Wow. And I got 7 job offers. Right. When everybody else was saying, stay in school, there's no jobs. Well, my first job was in the thriving metropolis of Ponca City, Oklahoma, as the head swimming coach and, quote, aquatics director for the city. Yeah. And it was a dream come true for the whopping sum of $10,000 a year. And so that was my first step into a career as a professional swimming coach. I was fortunate enough to, because I'd studied exercise science, I took a scientific approach to coaching, and in a time where I was really on the leading edge of that. Not that I was a pioneer by any stretch, but I just went to school on people that were doing something similar. There's a guy named Doc Councilman that was coaching at Indiana University at the time that I really kind of learned a lot from. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to have several Olympic trial qualifiers. I had one of my athletes qualify for the Olympics, and it was just incredible. It was fun, exhilarating, but it was grueling. Literally 365 days. You don't stop in competitive swimming or any sport that's year round. I didn't have weekends. I didn't have evenings. It was all consuming, and I wasn't making a lot of money. And so after about 7 or 8 years into that, I started to realize that maybe I needed to look for something else. Well, at the time, there was a housing boom, and I'll make the story short, going on in Houston, Texas. I got recruited from Oklahoma Illinois to South Carolina to Texas. And I was in Houston, Texas at the time, coaching a program. And there was a housing boom going on. And I saw an opportunity to serve communities that were exploding all over Houston, Texas. It was, like I said, housing boom, master plan communities showing up. They had these beautiful recreation facilities that weren't being used. And so I came up with an idea to pitch these communities with the idea to not only maintain them, but also provide programs, swim teams, day camps, swim lessons, tennis lessons, 4th of July celebrations, Easter egg hunts, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it turned into $1 million business in less than 2 years. And I had 300 people working for me and launched my entrepreneur career. So the segue from coaching swimming to starting my own business may seem like a big leap, but frankly, it was easy. I just applied exactly the same things that I learned in coaching to working with my employees. I applied the same principles I learned about marketing, fundraising projects, and competitive swimming to marketing my business. The same principles applied to networking to make swimming a cool thing in the communities where I coached, to networking to enroll business people in what I was doing. And so that experience, the rapid success and so forth, started to get a lot of attention there locally. And business people started asking me for my advice on how to help their business. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I could make a lot more money with a lot less overhead coaching other business people than in the business that I had created. Uh-huh. And so that was 30 years ago. And to this day, I coach entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's so cool. So what did you initially love about coaching that kept you around for 8 years, working 365 days a year?
Yeah. Well, like most, and I would encourage your listeners to think about this. Most people find endurance in their careers connected to the passion, not the money. Connected to the joy of seeing other people be successful, rather than trying to get that next deal or that next gig or the next contract. And I think a lot of we're misled by this, I believe, and quite frankly, I'll say this openly. I think MBA programs teach us wrong. And that is that business is not about spreadsheets. It's not about financial performance, really. It's not about market share. Those things are important. Don't get me wrong. Those things are aspects or facets of a successful business. But the real durability of a business is in the heart of the person that's doing the business, and especially for those that start a business. So I'm a zealous, unashamed entrepreneur advocate. And I believe everybody should start their own business in life, even if it's a side gig. And I think if you find your way to things that you're really passionate about, then you'll find endurance. And so that was me for sure in the early days of coaching swimming. I got up every morning at 4 a.m. to show up at the pool at 4:45 to let the kids in, and the top kids worked out twice a day. So we were there, I was there at 4:45 in the morning, and I didn't come home till 9 o'clock at night, but I did it enthusiastically and gladly because I was excited about it.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, it's really is fascinating because you talked about the bridge from coaching to, leading a business.
Yeah.
And here, and I think it's just interesting with swimming. Swimming is an individual sport, but it's a team as well.
Correct.
And I think similar in a business. So yeah, what are some more parallels that you saw when leaving coaching into a business?
Yeah, great question. So and I could go for days on this, but a few principles. One is that I learned as a young swimming coach that the kids were getting faster when they were swimming laps, not when they were hanging on the side of the pool, listening to me talking to them. Yeah. And so the key to success in business is action, is moving, is getting going. You're not going to have it all figured out. It's not going to be perfect. You got to get moving. And when the athlete's moving and the coach is watching the athlete move, then that leads to the next principle. Then collaboration becomes valuable. And so another really important business principle I learned on the pool deck is that collaboration is king. You plus me equals 3, and when you really focus on bringing around you other people's ambition and then embedding your own insights and ambition, then good things are going to happen every time. And so, too many entrepreneurs that I work with either started or have learned to operate in a vacuum, and it's an unhealthy position. You've got to be open to other people's ideas, openly look for places where you can contribute as well as be contributed to. So that's a big principle. Another really important principle that I learned on the pool deck, and I work with this every day myself, and I work with the people I work with. You're gonna suck until you suck less. The first time you try it, you're gonna suck. That's just how it works. That's how life is. And until you do it, you don't have any insight or guidance or segue to sucking less. And so, I have to remind myself of that all the time. The people that win in life are taking action while everybody else is watching. And so, I think that was a critical takeaway. And then finally, I'll give you this. One of the things that I did, one of my secret weapons, if you will, was I took the kids, the top athletes, every year to a beach destination. We called it Beach Week. The way it all started was I had a group of kids come up to me when I was in South Carolina and say, "Hey, Coach, our families always go on this family vacation together. We're going to practice for a week." And I said, "The hell you are! Yeah, where you're not missing practice for a whole week. Yeah. What's going on here?" And so they told me about this vacation. I said, "I'll tell you what if I have a better idea?" Well, you have to talk to our parents. So I went to the parents and I said, "How about you guys have a wonderful vacation without your kids? I'll take your kids to a beach." Brilliant. And you go have fun. And they loved it. And so what the kids didn't know is that the beach week was going to be a brutal boot camp-like affair where I trained the crap out of them. And they were all mine. There weren't any parents around. They were all mine, I tell you. And they came back. I tell you, it was magical. They came back. I did this for about 4 or 5 out of the years I was coaching. And those kids came back bulletproof. Yeah. After beach week, all I would have to say when they were getting ready to get on the blocks and facing formidable competition, all I'd have to say is look, Ben, look, that kid you're going to swim against, he didn't do beach week. And they knew immediately that, they were equipped better. And so translating that to business is I've challenged myself to outwork everybody around me, essentially. Put myself through my own beach week experience. And sometimes I do that working on the business. Sometimes I do that working in the business. And sometimes I do that working away from the business. So as you heard earlier, I'm an avid backpacker camper. And sometimes I just go take a week and just really work on myself. And so I think that was a big takeaway from coaching. Swimming is really everything's possible in business if you just are willing to challenge yourself to do what everybody else isn't.
Yeah, that's good. So I heard you say 4 things. I want to make sure my listeners get it. You said action, collaboration. The word I took from suck till you don't suck or till you suck less was failure. Basically, you got to learn to fail. Okay. And then outwork people.
Outwork. Yeah. That's good.
Is that it?
Notes.
Yeah. Good, man. That's really good. Really outside of, I guess within those values, those principles, and you kind of, your story moving from coaching to business to your being an entrepreneur and helping others become an entrepreneur.
Right.
Was there a driving force? Would you say there's a purpose in your life and that was driving you amidst that you discovered amidst the journey or had from the beginning? Well,
there's 2 things. One is that I'm a full believer in the entrepreneurial dream. And that is that, if you build your own business and you build it right, then you can literally live and work on your own terms. Mm-hmm. And so a driving force has been throughout my business coaching career, to demonstrate the possibility of, doing life on your terms. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to be really clear about this. That doesn't mean that you work your butt off for a number of years and then you go have a big giant vacation for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In our marketplace today, Cartwright, retirement is a myth. I don't believe that there really is any such thing in the context of what we've been taught to believe, and that is that you work for 40 years and then you go have fun at that point. Mm-hmm. I believe that you should be having fun now. You should be having a kick-ass life right now. Mm-hmm. And design what you do in life, what you do in business, what you do to make money, what you do to serve other people in such a way that it is compatible with and synergistic with having a great life. Mm-hmm. So I've lived in Colorado, Oklahoma, Illinois, South Carolina, Texas, Hawaii, Idaho, and now North Carolina.
Wow.
I can work literally anywhere. I'm not tied to having to be in a physical location. I have the money I need to go and do and have the things that I need. I've also, by the way, simplified my life over the years dramatically, realizing that less is more in a lot of ways. So I think that's been a driver to be, to live life on my terms and be an example for others that I serve. But on that note, another driver is the people that I serve.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm so proud and energized by seeing the people I work with discover, new opportunity, new meaning, and new success. I've got a client I've worked with for about 4 or 5 years now. He's an architect. When we first started, he could hardly pay me. In fact, I think he borrowed money to pay me. This year, he's going to make well over $500,000 a year. He works 3 days a week from his own hill country ranch home that he designed. Wow. He's for the first time in his life last year, he'll be doing it again this year, took his wife on a 1-month vacation without his cell phone and came back to his business working as well without him as it did with him. Those kinds of stories, those kinds of evolutions fire me up. And, I'm so proud and delighted to help people in meaningful ways like that. So that's been a driver.
That's awesome. So what would you say is the biggest obstacle? I mean, you talked about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but what are some of the biggest obstacles that are facing entrepreneurs?
Well, I think, let's see, in no particular order, I'll give you 2 or 3 that come right to mind. One is believing, I would say, may need to qualify it too much because believing too much, and I say that because I think you need to pay attention. Yeah. But paying too much attention and believing too much about what everybody else is saying about what's going on in the marketplace is a massive pitfall that's easy to fall into. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you make your own way. And right now, during this, we're coming off of a couple of very disruptive years in our marketplace today. And if you listen to the media and you've listened to all the chatter around it, everybody's struggling. Everybody's, running out of money. There's, the gas is too much. Everybody's at fault. I mean, you got this really, really hopeless picture. But you know what? At the very same time, entrepreneurs right now are inventing solutions for things new problems. And I guarantee you're going to see new names start to come up as overnight successes. They weren't overnight. They were just basically believing in what they thought was possible more than what everybody else was saying. So I think that's one giant pitfall, is listening too much to what everybody else is saying about what's possible or what's going on. Another pitfall is to design or develop your business so that you're the center of its universe. I use that the analogy, like, most entrepreneurs become the sun in their own business universe, and they unconsciously design their business so that it's all about them. And we come by this honestly because there's a lot of gratification in being the one that knows how to do it and being the one that knows how to get the thing done. But when you can shift your significance to not being the center of your business universe, to actually empowering people around you, so that as I mentioned with my client there, the business runs as well without you as it does with you, then there's a whole new chapter of opportunity there. Yeah. So I think a pitfall is to go into business saying, okay, I'm really good at this thing, and I'm going to build a business around this thing, and this thing's going to make me look like I'm a stud, you know. And you know what? You're going to sooner or later, you're going to be miserable with that model. So that would be another pitfall. And then finally, I'll throw this out, a big one that I see all the time is, and it kind of goes back to FUD, my word for it is fiddling. Entrepreneurs become fiddlers. We're really good at inventing, and we're also have a tendency to constantly reinvent, fiddling with something that was probably pretty good about 4 or 5 versions ago. And so go with what your good idea is, and don't fiddle with it, and wait to make any changes based on what the marketplace tells you versus what you think is your next big idea.
Right. So you kind of hit on pretty two polar opposites. There's narcissism, overconfidence that could lead to that. But there's just a lot of insecurity and fear, and I think a lot of my listeners maybe fall on this more in this column. And, what's the thing that you would tell somebody who's they've got an idea, but they are hearing the noise, the outside noise, the voices, and they're just, how do you make that leap into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, great. So the first thing is to find somebody that wants to buy what you're selling. And I say somebody, like one person. And I think you heard me tell this story. My first client paid me $1. I found one person that wanted to pay me for my advice as a business coach. He couldn't afford what I was charging. I asked him if he had $1 in his wallet. He said yes. He gave me the $1, and then I said, all right, let's work together for 3 months, and if I've been of any value, then you decide what to write me a check for. And at the end of 3 months, he wrote me a check for $3,000.
Wow.
So finding one person that is compelled, open to being served by what it is that you've come up with, I think is the first step. And that erases a whole bunch of what ifs and unnecessary complexity. And by the way, if you can't find one person, that speaks volume about your idea.
Yeah.
Right? So just find a person and that's interested in what it is that you think is your idea, and then that's the foothold to a business.
That's good. One person, just find that one person. If you can't find that one person, that's really good. That's making me think back. Who was that one person for me? So that's good. Yeah. So, I mean, you've kind of been hitting all on it, Steve. But I just, the question that pops in my mind is just like, why is entrepreneurship? Why are you so passionate about it? Why do you feel like you think everyone should be engaged in it?
Great. So there's several things going on in our marketplace that are fresh and new and different, and I don't think they're changing. Number one, I touched on it a minute ago, the idea of working for somebody, going to work, getting a degree, going to work for a company, retiring and having a happy life. It just doesn't happen. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of statistics that actually predict mortality in a short number of years after a person stops working. Why is that? Because they find themselves not useful anymore, or even I could go so far as to say they face uselessness. And so I think because of our and what's tied directly to this is our longevity. We're, used to be, you only lived to 70 years old, but now we're living to 80 and 90 and 100 years old. My dad's 90 years old. He complains about it every day, but he'll probably make 100. And we're just living longer. And so how many years do you want to basically play shuffleboard and pickleball? I mean, there's just so much juice in life before we start running out of ideas that really engage us. And so for starters, I think being an entrepreneur teaches you, or you learn how to make yourself useful in the marketplace for the rest of your life. Yeah. So am I gonna always be working the number of hours I do now? No. I'm having fun with it, and I've got plans for what I'm going to do to spend more time in my hammock than backpacking than on Zoom calls. But as I mentioned, I love it, and it's very exhilarating. And so I think I'm in pursuit of usefulness that I think drives entrepreneurs. Another staggering reason or notion that I think should motivate people to be an entrepreneur is that somewhere north of 70% of everyone today at age 50 and older don't know how they're going to take care of themselves financially for the rest of their life.
Wow.
Our marketplace today, and it's not spoken about very much. You still see, unfortunately, images of the people that have made it, not having to worry about money, but that's a small percentage of the whole. And so your listeners, I'm going to break it to you, that's not changing. This is a trend. It's here to stay. And that is that it's now a requirement that you learn how to, if not supplement your income, if you're working for somebody else, find ways to serve the marketplace in your own right so that you can take care of yourself for the rest of your life. Now, this might sound a little cynical, but it's fact. When you work for somebody else, you're selling your skills wholesale so that they can be sold retail. Yeah. So your boss is charging the top dollar that they can get in the marketplace for whatever it is that you're doing to contribute to what they're putting out in the marketplace, and they're paying you less than what they're getting paid. You get paid wholesale to do retail work. Well, when you're an entrepreneur, you get to keep all the money. It's your money.
Right.
And so if you want to sell it wholesale, that's all great, but you get to keep all of it in the same if you go higher than that. And so I believe that part of our economic conundrum here is that the erosion of that marketplace value continues. Just pay attention to your own experience or what you're hearing your buddies say, or go talk to 3 or 4 or 5 people in their 40s or 50s and ask them, number one, are you getting paid what you're worth? They'll tell you no. Number two, has your income gone up in proportion to your expenses over the last 10 years? They'll say absolutely not. And number three, do you feel like you're in control or somebody else is in control of your future? And they'll say, well, who I work for is in control of my future. I'm not. Right. And those are all great reasons for you to have your own business.
Yeah, that is really good. Because Steve, I mean, just to give a plug for you, this is what you do: is you help men in their back half of their life, right, to jump into entrepreneurship.
That's right. To jump in or remake it so that it's doing what it's supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what got you specifically into that, and that audience, that clientele?
Well, the audience found me. So I started out coaching any business person that wanted good ideas about business. I was literally using the experience that I'd had in building a successful business in a relatively short period of time, and translated that into ideas for others. But I also started to go to school on who I was serving. What are the mistakes that they're making? What is it that's preventing them from being fully satisfied in their own business? What are the pitfalls that they've fallen into unconsciously? And so I started to craft frameworks and solutions for the things that I was observing as the problems. Over the years, I started to see in a noisier and noisier segment of who I was serving that were in the second half of life, realizing that the longer you go in life, the louder the clock starts ticking, where you start realizing, gosh, I'm not going to be 25 forever. I'm not going to be 30 forever, And so I've created some very specific frameworks for those in that audience. But, candidly, I work with anybody that's got an entrepreneurial spirit. It's hard for me to say no. My sweet spot's that second halfer, but by all means, I'm as I said, zealous advocate for entrepreneurship.
That's great.
Entrepreneurship.
Well, Steve, this is kind of my last question. I love to ask my guests is, what do you wish you knew at 25?
What do I wish I knew at 25? A couple of things. I'll tell you the serious answer and the funny answer.
Yeah.
So what I wish I knew at 25, in all seriousness, was the power of entrepreneurship and how it basically defines your financial success as well as your personal sense of success in life. I just started a little late. Now, would I have traded the swim coaching experience? Not in a million years. I mean, it taught me a ton, like we talked about. But it would have been great to know that I was on my way rather than wondering if I was heading in a good direction. So I think everything we've talked about here in the last half on being an entrepreneur, I think is highly relevant. The second thing has to do with women. So I wish I wish I knew about women that their opinion of you doesn't make them smarter than you. Okay? It's just an opinion.
Right. Yeah. That's really good.
But I tell you, I unconsciously went for years pretty much thinking that women were smarter than me. And I'm not saying there aren't there's a lot of women. Let me make sure in case women are listening.
Right.
There's a lot of women that are smarter than me. Okay. I know I'm not saying that that's not true, but all women are not smarter than you just because they have an opinion that you're not very smart. So,
that's good.
Whatever that's worth.
That would definitely help. I think somebody at 25
somebody needs to hear that. I guarantee you. Yeah.
That's good. Oh, I forgot to ask you. Yeah, you mentioned this was how'd you get into swimming in your 40? You won a master. You said a master class swimming.
So in competitive swimming, when you're as young as 18, I think the most popular time is somewhere around 25 or 30. You can start to compete in what's called masters swimming, and it's a national organization, and you compete by your age group in 5-year increments all the way through until you want to stop. So there's people that are 90 and 100 years old competing in master swimming today.
Wow.
And so I was fortunate enough to, and I worked my butt off too to do it, but I was was nationally ranked top 10 in the country for over 15 years. And then I was world ranked for about 5 of those years in my 40s.
Less beer drinking? Is that what?
Considerably less beer drinking. A lot more work. Yeah.
Huh. Which is sorry, I'm having all these questions because Steve, it's just fascinating. So being physically fit at an older age, what's the mindset that you need to really do that for those out there that say I'm too old to be active?
Yeah, fundamentally it's why not? Think about it. When you look back on your life and you talk about the things that you're most proud of, most likely, and this is especially true for men, though not exclusively, most men will tell you the things that they're most proud of had something to do with physical achievement. Riding a bicycle to Colorado to Canada and back. I've paddled a canoe 275 miles in 4 days. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I've competed in a number of 100-mile bicycle races. Those things are all things that not only do I look back on and I'm proud of, but they also shaped my outlook, my insight, my understanding about what I was truly capable of.
Yeah.
Bring yourself to the point of wondering if you can make it or not, wondering if you're going to fail or not. And right there is the magic for where you go next in life. And so I think there's nothing better than physical achievement to do that. And so, I made fun of pickleball a minute ago, but good on you. If you're getting out there and you're running around a court and smacking a little ball back and forth across a net and getting your heart rate up, good on you. That's way, way, way better. And by the way, you'll be more proud of that than anything that you might do sitting on your butt watching the television or whatever else you think might be gratifying in the moment.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Steve, give us for my audience, just where can they find you? What's maybe some content that they could use?
Well, if you go to entrepreneurexcellence.com, and don't feel bad if you have to look up how to spell entrepreneur. It's a long word with a lot of syllables. But go to entrepreneurexcellence.com and go to the blog there. I think that's the best place for you to get insight. And I like to think, Cartwright, I like to think of the stuff that I teach and promote as pretty much timeless and applicable to any stage of life. Certainly, my target audience is a little older than those that are listening, perhaps. But I'll tell you what, if we asked any 10 of them, would you sit still long enough to really learn something from somebody older than you? Probably 9 or 10 out of 10 would say yes. And so that's a good way to go. And if you're interested in starting a business, you have an idea, an ambition but you don't know what to do. You don't know I'll spend an hour with you. MeetCoachSteve.com. MeetCoachSteve.com. I'll spend an hour with you. We'll talk through your idea. I'll give you some direction and perhaps some resources to help you. And then finally, if there's anybody that you know that that is an entrepreneur or wants to be, and they're, what you might consider an old fogey, send them my way, because I can definitely help them.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Steve. A lot of really good stuff. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I think getting a hold of young men, before they're beyond help or hope is a wonderful mission. And so you keep doing what you're doing. I think it's definitely needed.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Steve.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the MentorForge podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, would you please rate and review? That would help me out tremendously. As well as follow on Spotify. And they officially are doing ratings now. So please go to Spotify and rate as well. And I will see you next time. Thanks for listening.